News 7 tonight, the News 7 investigators uncover the inner workings of a worldwide network of churches, which ex-members say ripped apart their lives, their families, and their finances.
These churches are expanding right now all over Massachusetts. Hank Philippi Ryan is here to explain how they're using the power of faith to control current members and recruit new people who don't always know what they're getting into.
Margie, the people who revealed their story all consider themselves Christians. But what our investigation found is that their strong faith has been manipulated to support what is actually a huge church franchise. Some victims described it as a religious bait and switch, with families being destroyed as a result of blind faith.
Pretty girls.
There's Kirsten. Kirsten's 6.5 now.
Patty Heap can only see her grandchildren on videotape these days, though they live only 5 miles away.
This is Abigail. This is the baby.
The table in her family room where the kids once played is empty. Her grandchildren aren't allowed to visit her anymore. That's because they've been taught Patty Heap is possessed by the devil. And the reason?
Is this church. It's this group. It's their hatred of anybody outside of their group.
Patty Heap lost her grandchildren because she's on the outside. When the girls and their mother Terry joined Potter's House Church, Patty would not.
The spirit will come and paralyze.
Potter's House bills itself as born-again evangelical. We took these surveillance pictures and obtained an audio tape because Pastor Steve Johnson would not allow our cameras inside.
And all the devil attacks that came through with the emotional stroke that was taking place at this present time.
Now Patty's son Doug is inside for one reason only. Pastor Johnson has given him the disturbing ultimatum: join the church or lose your children.
Believe me, I have good, deep religious beliefs. I believe that if I don't do what I'm told, I'm never going to see my kids again.
And our investigation shows Potter's House is not the only church on the Cape whose members say their families were threatened and ripped apart. It happens when one family member wants to leave the church and another doesn't.
I had to choose between my parents or church.
And what did you choose?
For a while, I chose the church.
This teenager attended Victory Chapel in South Dennis for 7 years, even after her parents left.
And what did you think would happen to them?
I thought they would go to hell.
She eventually came home, and now, with her parents, can only see her old friends on home video. Because the church says you're in or you're out, her old friends pretend she's dead.
And what would you like to tell them about what happened to you?
I tell them all the time, I say, you know, I don't want it to happen to you, it happened to me.
What's it?
Just all the hurt in my family and the hurt to me.
Ed and Alice DaCosta are still hurting. They left the church. Their daughter Karen is still inside.
She's told us that we're not her family anymore, and that we're going to go to hell.
Your daughter says?
Yeah, we're going to go to hell when we die.
Ed and Alice, everyone you heard, all are Christians. But ex-members reveal attending other Christian churches is not acceptable. Here pastors preach, join them or go to hell. And our investigation shows these two Cape churches are actually part of a burgeoning church network. Its goal is to continue its worldwide expansion, and its target is the vulnerable.
You know, I talked to people and I told them my utmost things of my life, and I just feel like I was just raped.
After we left, I really felt like we had been raped.
I was spiritually raped, and I believe that it's one of the most dangerous places you could ever walk into. My mind was completely taken over.
And that, experts say, is how a church can create broken families and broken spirits.
They are a cult, sociologically, psychologically, behaviorally.
And what does that mean for the people in the group?
It means that they are being religiously hoodwinked.
Hoodwinked, ex-members say, by their pastors. Our undercover video shows at Victory Chapel, the pastor is Paul Campo, a high school dropout ex-nightclub musician with no formal religious schooling.
He says that
when I'm standing up here, it's like Jesus Christ is standing up here talking to you.
Paul Campo said that?
Sure.
He said those exact words.
And that's the hold over hundreds of Cape Church members. They believe disobeying Paul Campo or Steve Johnson is disobeying God. Pastor Johnson, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan from Channel 7.
Right now.
We tried to talk to Pastor Johnson, but he had church members take our pictures as he asked us to leave.
You can't come in and take pictures. You're not allowed.
Pastor Campo hurried into his Victory Chapel office, leaving his assistant to keep us away. Could you ask Pastor Campo to come out for a minute?
Of course not.
People are held in captive. They're held in fear. They're in bondage. And Jesus Christ died so that we didn't have to live like that anymore. Jesus Christ freed us from all those things. And
Victory Chapel?
Victory Chapel just puts you right back in the handcuffs. He puts you right back there, and it's like Christ died, for nothing.
No current members of the church would talk to us on camera, but what they would say is that they're happy and that the church has changed their lives for the better. That's exactly how ex-members say they once felt too, until they realized the church had taken complete control of their lives. Margie?
And who in the church is in control?
Well, on a local level, the pastor has complete authority, but tomorrow we'll show you that the ultimate control comes from one particular pastor who has created a spiritual and financial pyramid and will follow the money trail all the way to the mother church, and that's in Arizona.
Okay, all right, we'll look for that. Thanks, Hank. Tonight, the News 7 investigators continue their exclusive look into two Cape Cod churches. They're part of a worldwide network that's growing in Massachusetts. Last night, Hank Philippi Ryan showed us how these churches are tearing families apart. Tonight, she follows their money trail.
Margie, we checked into Cape Cod's Victory Chapel and Potter's House churches because former members called us worrying over their families and their finances. Our investigation then showed what was happening to them here at home, the result of blind faith, is controlled thousands of miles away. Our undercover video in the Cape's Victory Chapel reveals the lure, what looks like the joyous unity of a devout religious congregation. And ex-members will tell you that's what got them in the door. But it was the absolute authority of the pastors, they finally realized, that held them inside. The pastor's authority, however, actually comes from a man thousands of miles away.
Call him by the name of his father.
He preaches in the shadow of the Arizona Red Rock. His Potter's House in Prescott is actually headquarters of a worldwide franchise of Potter's Houses and Victory Chapels. Wayman Mitchell is founder and chairman of the board. And 2 weeks ago, Mitchell had no idea we attended his Sunday service with a hidden camera.
They can't even grasp what God has done.
In this world, Mitchell's message is gospel, and so are his methods.
He's the king. You don't do exactly what he says. As soon as he says it, you're out. You're discredited. You're listening to the devil.
Chris Turner did it Mitchell's way for 10 years, training to be a pastor and tithing thousands of dollars. But when he asked his Flagstaff pastor where the money was going,
I'd toss you right out of that church on here. That's what I would do.
the response was an interrogation from Wayman Mitchell himself. In a phone call, Chris taped.
I asked him if we could look at the book.
Why did you want to do that for?
Because it's my right. I pay my tithe.
No, it's not a right.
Right then, Chris learned, question the church and you've gone too far. He now works for a convenience store instead of preaching the gospel.
Basically, that's why he threw him out. We said, well, he's a rebel.
Paul Reese was on the church council. He admitted Mitchell's church policy forbids financial questions. Shouldn't someone in the church be allowed to look at the books?
Sure they should.
Person in the church be allowed to know where the money they're donating is going?
Yes, absolutely.
And what was the case in your church?
In our church, no, you couldn't do that.
So the same thing happened to Dave Diver.
I got kicked out as a heretic.
He says he donated close to $60,000, but when he asked to see the books, he was shown the door.
Somebody ought to get to the bottom of where all the money's going, and nobody can or will or won't.
But that's almost impossible, because as our investigation found, in Mitchell's churches, not even the treasurer has access to the church's books. This man should know he was a church treasurer.
The pastor controlled the books. He had control of the checkbook.
You were the treasurer. Why didn't you?
Because I wasn't allowed to.